All right, so here is your training on rating of perceived exertion, or RPE. You might have heard this before. It's very popular in the weightlifting and powerlifting community, but it can actually be applied to pretty much every single person who works out, steps into a gym. It's a very useful tool. So we're going to go through what exactly RPE is, why it's important, and how to use it. How to know when your RPE is appropriate for each exercise. We're just going to kind of talk about the what, the why, the how, and then go over some common mistakes that we see a lot. So first of all, what even is RPE? So it is a scale. It is a scale from 1 to 10, and it's a subjective scale that measures how much effort you're putting in to one set of exercise. Okay, so we're going to go through an example here in a bit, but basically that scale of 1 to 10 means if you say I had that set that I did was an RPE of 1, that means that it was completely effortless. You should never say it, honestly. Walking is even higher than 1. Basically, an RPE of 1 is like it's the equivalent of laying in a bed or sitting down or something like that. RPE 10 is complete failure. I can no longer even move my body after completing this rep. If I tried to do one more, I would literally collapse underneath the weight. Like I need to lay down and recover. The only thing I can do right now is breathe. I can't even move or do anything else. That's 10. So you can see it's the extremes of both ends on 1 to 10. Okay. So for an example of this is like I did 10 reps of squats. And if I'm being completely honest with myself, if I could have done 3 more before being completely exhausted and failing. This right here is an example of giving a set a rating of an RPE of 7 because there were 3 more reps in the tank before you reached failure. So an easy way to assign a rating to a set is think of how many reps could I have done before I completely failed. Then take that number and subtract it from 10, and that's your RPE. So again, if you ask yourself, I could have done 0 more reps. I couldn't have even started it. Like it would have just been bad. That's 0. So 10 minus 0 is 10. That's an RPE of 10. If you say, yeah, I might have been able to get 1 more rep, maybe, that's 9. And if you say I could have probably done 2 more reps before I completely lost every ounce of strength, that's an 8, that sort of thing. So on and so forth. Okay, so why is this even important? Why is this a thing? Why does it exist? And why do people use it? So it gives you and your coach an honest gauge of how hard you're actually pushing yourself. Because some people will say, man, that was really hard. Like that was a really challenging set. And then if you ask them, okay, well, how many more do you think you could have done? And they're like, maybe 4 or 5. You're like, okay, well, it really wasn't that hard then if you had that many left in the tank. So it gives you an honest gauge of how hard you're pushing yourself. It also allows you to select the proper weight, the proper sets, and the proper reps for future workouts. For example, the last time I did 40 pounds on my overhead press, when I did 10 reps with it, it was an RPE of 8, meaning I could have probably done 2 more before I completely failed. Next time, I'm going to go for 11 reps, but I'm going to try to do it at the same RPE, meaning I still want to have 2 reps left in the tank, but I'm going to try to do 1 more rep than I did last time. Okay, that's going to allow you to progress and move forward, like with progressive overload, which is another module. But again, we can use RPE for that. Now, when you get good at estimating a true RPE, you can design workouts based on it, and you can be deliberate about it. You can even assign RPE to a specific exercise, which is a very advanced technique. For example, like I want to get better at my leg strength, so I'm going to do squats next week at an RPE of 9. I'm going to push the intensity a little bit. The week after that, though, I'm going to back off a little bit. And I'm going to do squats at an RPE of 7 to make sure that I recover well. And you can see how we're assigning RPE numbers to different sets in the future. Again, that's more advanced. You don't have to worry about it too much. Next is the how, right? So how do we know what an appropriate RPE is for each exercise? Okay, so generally an RPE of 7 to 9 is perfect. There are few times you should ever go to a 10 unless you become very advanced. This is reaching true muscular failure, which is you really don't even have to do it. Like don't really ever do it. Only the most advanced athletes and lifters are really ever going to do this. But even 9 is really far. You should hang out more around like the 8. 8 is perfect. 7 is great. 9 is decent, but 8 is perfect. Okay. Why? If you train an exercise to an RPE of 10, it does a lot of damage to your body. And most of the time, it's too much damage for your body to recover from in a decent time frame. It does more harm than good. For example, if you do squats on Monday and you take them all to failure, meaning you go all the way to RPE 10 on every single set, you're going to be sore from those sets of squats for like 4 or 5 days, meaning you can't train squats. You can't train effectively again for another 4 or 5 days because you're just going to be too sore. But if you train at an RPE of 8, you might be sore for a day, maybe, and then you can get right back to it, right? So you can kind of see how doing too much is just as bad as well. All right. And then also training at an RPE below 7 is also usually not enough of a challenge for your body to require an adaptation. Meaning, if you do a set of squats and after you're done, you ask yourself, how many more could I have done? And you say, maybe 4 or maybe even a little bit more, you did not work hard enough to actually get your body to change. There is an exception though. Okay, if you have a goal of building a foundation, you're practicing an exercise, you're just trying to work on your form and technique, you're not trying to elicit an adaptation, you're not trying to cause a change in your body, you just want to practice, then an RPE of 5 or below is perfectly fine. If you're just going in there just to practice form, just to practice technique, just to get better at the skill of the exercise, then this is fine. But if you're going in and you're trying to work out and really, push the needle, then an RPE of 8 is perfect. Okay. So the last little bit here is some common mistakes and pitfalls when it comes to RPE. And the first one we've already talked about is taking every set to failure, or RPE of 10. The next one is being scared to go above 6 or 7. I have known how many clients I have trained that they get to that point of, man, this is getting really hard. Like this set of squats is getting harder. This set of presses is getting really hard. So I might have like one more left in the tank. So then they go, okay, it's getting difficult. I'm going to push for one more. Boom, I did it. Cool. And then I'm like, what are you doing? Like you had 2 or maybe 3 more left. And they're like, what? No way. And then they try it again. And sure enough, we had 2 or 3 more left in the tank. Okay. So don't be afraid to push it when you feel that sense of like, man, this is getting hard. This set is really difficult. Like, man, I'm really feeling it on this rep. After that rep I did, man, I'm feeling it. You probably have 3 more left, realistically, maybe even 4 if you really push it. Okay. So if you go, anyways, I don't want to over explain myself. So don't be scared to go above 6 or 7. Okay. Remember, your body only changes when you challenge it outside of your comfort zone. Okay. Another common mistake is not taking inventory of an RPE on every set or each set, right? So what you can do is after you complete a set, you want to ask yourself, right? Okay, what RPE was that? That was probably like a 7. All right. Well, next time when I go back into this set, I'm going to try to do another rep. I'm going to try to do an additional rep than I just did because I want to be at an RPE of 8. Okay. And then the last one is lying to yourself about what RPE the set was at, right? So I kind of explained that a little bit of saying, oh yeah, like that was really challenging. I probably only had 1 more, but in the inside, you're lying to yourself. And if you really pushed it and you really dug deep, you could have done more. So quick little training on RPE. It's a very useful tool. And again, you want to assess every set and ask yourself, where was that? How was I doing, right? And once you get good at it, then you want to hang out at that RPE 8 section. If you're going into a workout and you're like, okay, I'm going into a workout, I'm going to build some muscle today, I'm really going to get into it, and your sets are at like RPE 6, you're not pushing the needle. You really got to move it, okay? So take it to that RPE 8 place, and you'll be perfectly fine. So hope this makes sense. If you have more questions, please let me know.